And we're back with more of the Shacknews Awards 2023 deliberations. This is now, I think, the third session that we've had recording these, and we're going to jump right into it, giving out an award for Outstanding Achievement in Accessibility. Let me run through the nominees real quick. Uh, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Street Fighter 6, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and the PlayStation Access controller. I do want to mention what appears to be a snub, according to Mickle the Pickle in our comment section. Uh, he mentioned that Diablo 4 should get some love here, as a blind player was able to defeat Uber Lilith. And, while we may have snubbed them in the nominations, I wanted to at least give them an honorable mention here.
Mhm.
So let's get into it. Donovan, you reviewed Marvel Spider-Man 2. Can you talk about some of the accessibility features in that?
Yeah, I mean, Insomniac has had kind of been one of the many studios I feel like on the forefront, just PlayStation studios in general, when it comes to accessibility features in games. They've got a lot of that in Marvel Spider-Man 2, specifically around sight and sound. Even narratively, there's a deaf character that factors heavily into the story of
Yeah.
Marvel Spider-Man 2. And not only do you kind of have that representation on screen, but they kind of also back it up with the settings. There's a lot that you can adjust and tune. For that game, whether it's like locomotion stuff, visual aids. They have gone very in depth with it. I think it's the most amount of options they've had out of these Spidey games yet. I feel like they kind of just add a couple every time, going from Spider-Man 2018 to Miles Morales, now Spider-Man 2.
And Miles and Genki actually communicate in sign language with the characters.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's accurately done, which is pretty cool. Awesome. Well, if there's not anyone else that wants to chime in on Spider-Man's accessibility, we can move on to the next one. Street Fighter 6. TJ, I believe you reviewed this game, right?
Yes. I like even before we get into like the special features that are like specifically for accessibility, I think that modern control style is one of the smartest developments of a simplified fighting game system that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like making it so that anyone can just pick up a character and have access to the moves. You don't have to do like the dreaded 360-degree stick spins of old to do your pile drivers. Just like taking away the complexity of the inputs and allowing more people to make a character blossom into their playstyle is an incredible feature. And then and it's like this innovative thing where like if you don't know how to play fighting games, you can't do those inputs. You'll be able to play, but even experts have picked up modern control style and done some fun and crazy stuff with it to the point where we saw a modern player on Chun-Li make it into the grand finals at Evo. So it's like a feature that can be used by anyone, which is awesome. And then I know Denny, you have beat the drum a lot for like some of the, like the audio cues and other cool stuff that they have, like as far as just making this available to play for anyone.
Yeah, for sure. The game is definitely stepped it up as far as options and features. Um, and also, I do want to bring up as well that modded controls are also pretty sweet. They even have a third control option with a dynamic control mode, which is a three-button feature for people that may have fine motor skills and stuff like that. They can still enjoy the game, and it has some combo setups for that too. So they thought even further on that end. I thought it was pretty impressive for some folks that I know that can't necessarily use the controller of the same setup even on the modern side. They still have another feature on the dynamic end too. That's pretty cool. But yeah, the audio accessibility is pretty dope too. They also have some features that start out when you even um, queue up the game for the first time. I thought were pretty sweet. Definitely helps for blind players. They made some choices there from jump that they really wanted to make this something that people could hop on and play across the board. Um, I do tweak it a little bit because the one thing I've heard from actual blind players that I know um, is that there were issues with some of the menu narration in the game. So that's something they can definitely fix, and I think relatively easily. But they do have the additional audio cues and different settings for both like the sound cues and other things within the game. Even when it comes to the cutscene and battle hub stuff. So plenty of attack sounds and more customization options between sound effects, system sounds, character voices. All that stuff's in there, which is pretty in depth, and I was impressed.
Absolutely. Uh, Anyone else have something they want to say about Street Fighter? Can we move on to the next nominee?
Oh, just a quick shout out. I've played Street Fighter since back in the day,
Mhm.
and I was really impressed with the modern controls. Like, I turned them off at first, not because I was turning my nose up at them, but because I was like, well, these aren't really for me. I know how to play Street Fighter. And then just a few nights ago, I turned them on. I was like, this is actually really fun. I'm old now. I don't really have time to sit down and like learn how to do all these complex moves, especially for characters I'm only trying just to try them. And I really like it. And Amy was able to play a little bit with it too. And she doesn't know a dragon punch from a Hadouken, so she had a lot of fun with that too.
I would agree that like just as like a casual fighting game player, modern controls made things a lot easier for me to like try out. Like obviously I know how to play with certain characters in that game, but new characters getting to try out with them, I think was cool. Also I think this might have been something that was in past games, but being able to like spectate other people playing and seeing their moves in real time, I think is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just from accessibility standpoint, just from like learning the game. I think they went very far on the tutorial side or even in
Mhm.
game just to make it really easy to learn Street Fighter, and I think they deserve some praise for that.
Yeah, it's great for that. I really enjoyed the way they made that accessible with just the tutorial and training mode stuff. You can basically play through. Before it used to be more of like a trial situation, but even now you can play through replay moves and see them in real time and how they're done. And I also want to give them a little bit of love too on the Battle Hub side because they have features for that too. Since there is the actual hub and you're walking around a 3D space, they do have camera assist and stuff like that on that end to keep the camera, behind you or in front of you and stuff like that. So you don't have to necessarily use both joysticks to be able to move around.
Mhm.
So that was definitely well thought out too on that end. Plenty of features with that in the mini games and world tour stuff. So yeah, definitely in depth when it came to the accessibility side, and I think it's paying off. Street Fighter Six is an awesome game.
I don't know if anyone's seen the South Park episode with Russell Crowe, who's just fighting around the world. He had like a fake reality TV show.
The tugboat,
It,
yeah, he had the tuggy or whatever you
yeah,
called it.
with
Yeah,
Tugger. It really feels like Street Fighter 6 World Tour is just Russell Crowe's fighting around the world. Like you can just fight anyone. It's great. I just wanted to throw that out there. But on to the next nominee. I had a chance to review this game for Shacknews. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I actually had nothing bad to say about it. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I believe we're nominating this not necessarily because Nintendo has some amazing track record with accessibility, but that they did, Mario games tend to be difficult, but Nintendo in recent years has added, like the white Tanuki feather in Super Mario 3D World, or these power-ups that basically soften the blow. In Wonder, it's not even a power-up, two characters that you can select. You can be Nabbit or you could be one of the Yoshis, and they don't die. There's no real fail conditions for them, so you can kind of power through levels. It's great for kids who may not be able to beat 5-star levels yet. It's great for people who may just want to play through the game and not have to worry about dying or fail conditions. This is something that a lot of difficult games get heat for. I think the Souls games especially fall under this. And this is, I think, an example of like, here's how you do it. Like you can make a game that is difficult and then offer a character that makes it easier for some people while still, like, I don't think Mario Wonder hurts itself at all by doing this. It
I
doesn't
think
make the game any less challenging by doing
it doesn't. I think they have fair concessions too. Like if you're Yoshi or Nabbit, like you can't use power ups, but that's okay because they kind of have power ups built in. Like you have
it. Yeah.
Yoshi's feather jump, so it's not like you can pick one of those characters and do everything. There are, some concessions, but the pros outweigh the cons there, and it's just balancing on Nintendo's part. I really like that as well.
And then on top of that, when you play as Yoshi, it opens up a whole world of co-op play. So I think we're gonna see a lot of like parents playing with their kids, or like the kid is Yoshi, and they're, it unlocks a different level of co-op play, which I think is pretty neat too. But yeah, Mario Wonder deserves a nomination, but I think these other games probably have more accessibility features that we've listed so far, and I think our next nominee does a lot more to push things forward. I will say, just in general, Nintendo can do better when it comes to accessibility options across the board. When it comes to color blindness settings, when it comes to supporting various hardware, uh, they're lacking, and I hope that the next generation Switch will address some of those things. But this on the software side, they are getting better at times, and Mario Wonder is an example of that. Our next or does anyone else have anything to say about Mario other than Mario number one?
Just that I think this is a really nice 180 from the feature set of like the new Super Mario Brothers games. I enjoy those in a lot of ways, but the multiplayer, the accessibility in that regard was like overtly aggressive. You didn't really want to play like new players being picked up and thrown into pits and stuff, whether on purpose, whether an accident. It just wasn't fun. So it's really cool that this will probably be a lot of younger players' gateway, as well as maybe older players who like Mario but always thought it was too complex. I think this will be their gateway into enjoying these games, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the review. I could not stand New Super Mario Brothers multiplayer. As someone who like it really enjoys the single player experience of Mario and
Same.
the concept of pixel perfect jumps and all that, it got annoying when people were just jumping on your head and ruining your day.
Even little things like accidentally jumping on someone's head, or like mistakenly you boost them on a jump, but then your momentum halts and you just drop. Like now you just go through each other.
Hmm.
Amy could not stand New Super Mario Brothers multiplayer,
Yeah.
but Mario Wonder we're playing, and I may as well not be there in a lot of ways, and that's good for her.
Yeah, it's you can't like you're able to help each other still, but
Yeah.
you're and even when you turn on like the multiplayer, the online multiplayer, like it's the most helpful online community maybe ever,
Yeah.
which is just weird. But yeah, it's they've done some things to make it more accessible. I hope this is the beginning of a trend at Nintendo, because like I said, they have a ways to go before
Yeah.
I think they win an award like this from Shacknews. But our next nominee is the PlayStation Access Controller. Now, PlayStation shipped this recently, or I think it's about to ship, but they've shown several deep dive videos of what it can do. They reached out to a bunch of accessibility experts in the gaming industry. They reached out to Able Gamers and some other folks. And from what I've seen, this is a very versatile controller. You can stack them on top of each other so that you have two PlayStation Access controllers, and they kind of function as the two analogs. They have a very large joystick that you can control with your palm. The buttons are pretty assignable. And the way it's designed, it's like a circular device that you can plug a lot of other things into. So it's kind of like the what was that Xbox? What was the Xbox thing called? Accessibility control? What was it
Yeah,
called?
but I know what you're talking about.
The
The
adaptive
Xbox adaptive
The
controller.
adaptive controller. Thank you. Yeah, it's like the adaptive controller in how modular it can be with other things being plugged into it. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about Nintendo. Opening up hardware to experimentation is like to maybe non-licensed products is hugely important for accessibility, because some of these things are being made maybe for a smaller group of people that may not be able to go through the verification processes that like Mad Cats would to make a transparent N64 controller back in the day. So I think just opening up PlayStation to that world of accessibility is huge. It's not that they weren't doing this before, but the Access controller really opened it to all sorts of different players who weren't able to play with the DualSense or whatever. But yeah, from what I've seen, the setup of access controller is really good, which that's hugely important for products like this. And the like ability to stack them on top of each other seems to really unlock some cool things. Anyone else want to chime in on the access controller? Cool. Well, are we ready to vote then?
I am.
Sweet. I'm gonna start with Denny.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely give plenty of love to Street Fighter 6. I think that they are changing the game on that end, especially for fighting games. Hopefully, the rest of the industry catches up.
Yeah. David.
Gonna go with Spider-Man 2. I think that not only do they have the bevy of options, as Donovan mentioned, that's becoming the norm in Sony games, which is great, but also the accurate representation of communicating with a deaf character in the sign language and everything is pretty cool, and it feels just normal, natural.
Mm-hmm. Donovan.
I'm also going to roll with Spider-Man 2.
I'm going to abstain until we determine if my vote matters or not. Greg.
A lot of good points on all around, but I have to do Street Fighter 6. I think fighting games are really hard to make accessible, so they made an effort this one and shows.
I think that's just true across the board with Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
They made an effort.
They made an effort.
For sure. TJ.
Yeah, and echoing a common theme, like what a turnabout from Street Fighter 5. Like making Street Fighter has historically been an execution heavy game. You have to like have good hand skills in any game from Street Fighter 1 up to Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 6 makes it fun for everybody. Oh, and that's amazing. So yeah, Street Fighter 6.
Ozzy.
I'm throwing my vote behind the PlayStation access controller. It's the bevy of options that it gives you, the fact that you can connect it to another one and to the DualSense to add the DualSense features. I think that's really cool, and I think it gives people ways to play on their PlayStation 5. It gives people that access that they otherwise wouldn't have access to.
Yep, because there's a lot of people that just can't play with the DualSense, and unlocking a way to do that is huge. And I just think I have to give credit to Microsoft for the adaptive controller. They kind of kicked the door down, and I hope this is now a trend that we continue to see in other hardware makers. Bill.
I'm going with Ozzy because all good points for folks, but this isn't about one game or one experience. This has an opportunity to change the way that you interact with every game on PlayStation if you need it to. So I think that's much more groundbreaking than options in one thing.
And it comes at a time where there's like 46 million PlayStation 5s out there in the world. So there are people who need it, and there's probably more people out there who are on the fence about a PlayStation that now will buy one because of it. Steve.
I'm going with Street Fighter 6.
Sam is not here to vote in person, but he did write in that he's voting for the PlayStation Access controller, which means my vote does matter, and I'm also voting for the PlayStation Access controller, which makes it 4-4 with Street Fighter 6. Which means anyone who voted for anything else will have to revote. I believe that's the Spider-Man 2 voters in the crowd. So let's revote. I'm going to start with Denny. You have to choose between Street Fighter 6 or the PlayStation Access controller for outstanding achievement in accessibility.
Well, we made it this far, and I'm sticking with my vote. So Street Fighter 6 it is.
Okay, David.
I thought Bill made a very well said, well reasoned argument for the accessibility controller, so I'm throwing my weight behind that.
Okay, Donovan. Street Fighter 6 or PlayStation Access?
I'll go PlayStation Access controller.
Thank you. I'm also voting for the PlayStation Access controller. Going to get my vote out of the way now so I don't forget. And obviously, Sam is voting for the PlayStation Access controller as well in absentia. Greg.
I'm going to stick with Street Fighter 6.
Okay. TJ.
Street Fighter.
Ozzy.
PlayStation Access.
Bill, you're on the PlayStation Access?
I am.
And Steve.
I'm sticking with Street Fighter.
Okay. PlayStation Access wins by 1. So there we have it. Indisputable. We got it, right? We did it right this time.
You got it.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Sony. You guess you can use my original footage. Congratulations to Sony and the PlayStation Access controller for winning our outstanding achievement in accessibility for the year 2023 here at Shacknews.